You're listening to the Mental Money Podcast, the show that shows you how to master your mind to maximize your money. This show is for people who love to watch their bank accounts grow while shifting their relationship to money. Without further ado, let's get these insider insights from today's leading expert. This is Natalie. You're listening to the Mental Money Podcast. And for those of us who are new, thank you. Welcome. For those of us who are returning, welcome back, right? Today we have with us Brandon, and he's going to be giving us a lot of insights into like mindset, money, and talking to us about his upcoming event, which I think is pretty interesting. And I'm hoping to find out a little bit more about it. So Brandon, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share some fun stories and go deep.
Right. So usually we typically like split the episodes between mindset and money. Where would you like to start first?
Well, let's do mindset first because you need the mindset to get the money.
Okay, good. Everyone starts there. You're right on track. Okay. So maybe talk to us about like some of your earlier messages around money. Like, what did you hear your parents say? Did you grow up wealthy? What was that like?
Definitely didn't grow up wealthy. And I'm grateful I didn't. We weren't like per se like broke and starving for food, but I got to see my dad actually like build a business from nothing. But I saw him along the way go through the obstacles of money issues, and then we have where he made the money. And you know, it's interesting because I think I learned a lot about. My dad did like to spend money, but he did make some good investments. But there were some things he probably bought and didn't really need along the way. And so I think that really taught me valuable lessons about money, but also investments too, because when in 1986, he bought land, timberland, because I'm from Iowa, for like $300 an acre. The land's worth $5,000 an acre now. But also, he probably logged, like he cut logs off a timber, probably like $400,000 during that time frame. So there was some things I got to see that were, and for me, actually, my first investment in real estate was when I was 15. And so it's those kind of things did teach me about money. But I will say this, my dad, he always wanted to be a millionaire. And I've never actually had this conversation on a show before. He always said he wanted to be a millionaire by 30, and then it happened by 40. And then he said he didn't really care anymore about money. He had us kids.
Right.
And so it was interesting to see that perspective, because I personally, when I looked at that, I looked at a different way of how I could achieve millions of dollars. And I think that experience of seeing it from my dad made me realize, like, I'm going to make multis of millions. And so that was a good part that formed how I looked at money.
Got you. Understood. And what about your mom? How was like her approach to money?
So my mom, so she always supported my dad in terms of like supporting the entrepreneur drive. But she, straight out of high school, she was a bank teller since 18, and now she's 62 and she still is there.
Wow.
So she's worked the typical work for somebody and make really the same amount of money every year. But yeah, that's her.
Okay. Got you. So now that you're kind of like in the media space, how do you provide value via conferences? Like, what's the actual business model behind a conference, and why did you go down that route?
Yeah. So, the reason why I went down the route of, there's a couple things. I really went down like the media and video production route, TV shows. And then I also went down the having events. And so I took a different approach of how I utilized the experiences to make money. It wasn't, I was going out to put an event and make money off the ticket sales.
Right.
Because that never really happened in that aspect.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't also the aspect of creating a TV show and making money where I sold to Netflix or sold to a production, because I never really did that route.
Yeah.
What I did is I leveraged the platforms that allowed me to build a brand and relationships, where with those relationships, I did big deals with. So it was really a platform of building like and trust. And you mentioned at the beginning, like, how do I get in your network? That's what I did.
Right.
And I invested a lot of money from the TV shows. I've spent over $1 million of my own money in video production,
Mm-hmm.
to the events. I've spent a lot of money on the events
Mm-hmm.
and on speakers and all that. And what that did for me was created this brand association and network that allowed me to profit in other areas.
Okay. And how would you expand that on that profit for like someone who might be wanting to do the same thing?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So one, let's just talk about the event space first.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
for event, you can, like, I've sold masterminds at events. I've sold coaching packages
Mm-hmm.
from anywhere from 25 grand to 150 grand. So that's like, if you want to sell education and training. The other side of it is I do a lot of consulting for equity.
Mm-hmm.
So I will consult with the company, and it's helping. A combination could be video production, more of a marketing branding, but also
Mm-hmm.
fundraising. And I will get paid a retainer, and I'll actually get equity in the company.
That's awesome.
And so that was my understanding, to go quicker to the millions versus working the hourly rate, or even like you can only do so many retainers that pay you X amount. For
Right.
me, I thought, how can I add enough value to a select few companies,
Mm-hmm.
get equity in the company, they go public, they get sold out, where I make a lot of money at one
Mm-hmm.
time.
Right.
It's like the saying, you do the work most people aren't willing to do for a period of time to make more than people could ever make.
Yeah.
And so I murdered that, by the way. You work a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't.
Yeah.
That's been my motto. And so that's how I've made money on the events.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side, which is really kind of the same, the video production side,
Mm-hmm.
I've done the TV show Ambitious Adventures, I've done Success in Your City, I've done Live to Grind, I did the movie Think and Grow Rich Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
That was a like and trust builder. So like, I'll give you an example. That movie Think and Grow Rich Legacy, there's a book called Think and Go Rich, which has sold over 130 million copies.
Right.
That book changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to help raise money and be in the movie and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago this fall. And so that movie, that's in 3 languages, been seen by millions of people. I still have people that reach out to me today that turn into clients.
Right.
And so that was kind of my back end from that. And again, it was always the long play for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I built brand, I built like and trust, I built connections, and I put myself out there in a capacity where people started reaching out to me. So the stuff I did 5, 6, 7 years ago is now paying off in many ways from the people that are seeing the content.
Right. So it seems like you have like a marathon mindset. You're not like just short sprinting to opportunities. Like you're really trying to integrate and build on the opportunities.
100%. I mean, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I love how Gary Vee put it. He, at 32 years old, he left his dad's wine business,
Mm-hmm.
and he started from scratch. He really had no money.
Yeah.
I'm 32 now. So I'm like, man, it's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started from scratch, and he's, I don't know how much, 40 something now, whatever he is, but like he built this empire.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about what you can do in a decade. And so for me, I always looked at what I could do in 5, 10, 20 years versus what can I do in a year,
Mm-hmm.
even though I was always looking at short term.
Yeah.
But in terms of wealth building and thinking of like making a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
I've always looked at what can I do now that 2, 5, 10 years from now, I'm going to make a lot of money that I couldn't have done just going for the quick buck.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah. You're very like future minded as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Talk to us about like this event and kind of like how you worked out the model so that it makes sense to bring value to the consumer. It doesn't break their bank, but then you're also making sure that your objectives are being met as well. Like walk us through the event.
Yeah. So I'll first give you an example of my first event, then I'll tell you the event that I'm planning and doing now, because it's definitely a different perspective. So when I did my first event in 2016,
mm-hmm.
I think I spent 72 grand, and I brought in 72 grand or 70 grand, I think it was.
Okay.
So it was like, I technically had a loss,
yeah,
but I ended up doing business deals with like 3 people in the room. One of them,
mm-hmm.
who's my partner today, Kevin Harrington.
Mm-hmm.
And so the long-term value of that event was actually worth millions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that in that aspect, the value that I was providing to the attendees is, I mean, I think the ticket price was $197.
Okay.
And I brought in all these big names and they got to connect. Like there's businesses that were created from that event that are still living on today, which is really the thing that I love the most out of these experiences.
Yeah.
And so that mindset is, okay, what am I bringing to the value of somebody buying a ticket? Is I'm bringing them connections. We also did pitch competitions where they got to win money. I'm bringing them knowledge. And so that's what I did. But then that event was called Young Entrepreneur Convention, which still lives on today. I sold my shares out.
Okay.
But for that event, that was young entrepreneurs. It was, I found out it wasn't like the ideal audience that I personally could make, like they're not going to hire me for the high end stuff.
Yeah.
And so as I started doing more events, I started focusing on more of, I don't need hundreds of people.
Right.
I just need dozens of people, the right people.
Right.
And I've actually found out some of the smaller events and masterminds became a lot more profitable. And then so looking into, after doing, I've spoken at 270, 80 events. I've put on over 100 events of my own. I've really now in a point in my life where the event that I'm doing now, we did our first one last year called Rise and Record. We got our next one coming up in October, Rise and Record. There's a lot of passion behind what it really stands for. Yeah. And and I'm at a time where like, I'm not going into it of, I need to make money, which I'll make money, but it's more of, I want to bring in the best of the best. Like even the people in the room that are buying tickets to be there, like they're solid people. Like they're very successful people that all could be speakers on stage. And so they come to the event and what do they get from it? They get to tap into my network. We limit it to 150 people. They get to have a fun experience. Yeah. But also I'm showing them how to use the power of video to grow their business, a very specific thing. Even more so, showing them how to tell their story effectively, because storytelling is the most powerful thing we have. Yeah. If you can communicate a story in an effective way, and specifically through video, here's what happens. You're building like and trust. People are believing in you and they're following you. And yes, they're going to work with you, but also beyond money, it is making an impact in people's lives. Yeah. And so that's what the event's all about. It's 3 days. And from a logistical aspect, like I know I'm going to make money from it. I'm thinking long-term again, because one deal in the room will make me a big return, but I'm not going in thinking that. Yes, I know that will come, but I'm thinking about how can I add the most value to the ticket holders? Yeah. How can I create the best experience? And how can I create something that's so unique, that's different than anything else? So that's where my focus is for that event.
Okay. I know you're enjoying the episode, but I wanted to quickly let you know about the book Converted, Uncover the Hidden Strategies You Need to Achieve Massive Credit Score Success. As you are on your financial journey, this book is designed to be the guide towards ensuring that your journey is as smooth as possible. Doesn't matter if you're clearing up your mindset or on the verge of having more money, credit is going to follow you forever. I bet you that you'll see, as you begin and continue to apply the resources mentioned in any given episode, credit will continue to come up, and we want you to get right. Go ahead and head to www.convertedcredit.com. That's www.convertedcredit.com. That's www.convertedcredit.com and get your copy today. And so tell us what's the component of a good story? Like just break a couple things down. I know if we really want to get into the good details, we got to come to the Rise and Record event, but
yeah, there's so many stories. I mean, you have a story, I have a story, we all have a story. And if you're listening right now, you might think, I don't have a story. You do have a story. And for your story, there's a lot of people out there that probably is going through something you are too. And when you share that, especially when you've overcame it, and you can share what you're going through or what you went through, you're going to help them. And so you think of, if you want to be able to communicate a story, I mean, I've listened to podcast shows. I've listened to speakers. I mean, you look at Les Brown or all these different speakers out there, like they're very good at communicating story and the punchlines and making it so much so that you remember that. Yeah. Like when you share a story with somebody, it's proven they're a lot more likely to retain the information and remember that part of you,
Mm-hmm.
which if they remember that, they remember you,
Yeah.
that means on the radar. And
Yeah.
so the very specifics, the emotion behind it,
Mm-hmm.
really bringing people in as if they're listening to it and they feel like they're there with you.
Right.
And so that's a big component is, and so beyond, let's say, Rise and Record event or documentary and films, even when I answer a question
Mm-hmm.
or even working with a company, I will give the answer or strategy around a story.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I do that, people understand it more and they get of where to go with it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the person that I really understood storytelling
Mm-hmm.
was Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman, co-founder of Priceline.com. He created multiple billion-dollar companies,
Yeah.
created the kiosks in airports. I sat one time at an event in Kansas City we both spoke at.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting around a circle and we're doing like this mentorship hour. It turned out, I mean, I was one of the mentors, but he was really the one, I mean, very successful guy. And
Yeah.
I sat around with him and 100 people. We're in a circle sitting on chairs. I was next to him. 2 hours go by and it felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was him telling powerful stories.
Yeah.
And so that's where I learned it. And I'm always looking to get better at storytelling.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you just told the story just then. And it's kind of like how you're kind of like naturally kind of geared to doing that. Yeah. So I guess I have two questions for you. The first one is, how do we use video to communicate that? Because I believe that I'm a great speaker, right? But translating that on video, I feel like sometimes I can be kind of awkward, or like, I'm just kind of like trying to make the words come out well. How do we use video to really communicate like powerfully those ideas that we could probably share having a conversation like between us?
That's a great question, Ellie. Like, it's just sharing as if you're sharing with somebody around a campfire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I pull up my phone and I start recording a video, which 99% of my content is with that. I mean, I've done documentaries, films where there's a whole process, editing, all that, music, which makes emotion behind it. But then there's just using your phone, and literally you're turning on the record button. The problem that most people do that I see is they're trying to put on a show in someone that they aren't. When you I've been there, where you're trying to prove something, or but when you actually just be authentic and real, and share who you are and what you do, and you just do that through the camera, that literally, again, going in, what do you say on camera? Tell a story. So let's say here's an example. So let's say I want to share a story. I'll go back to crowdfunding. That was how I started my career, helping people raise money. So if I wanted to share a video that gave some insight on crowdfunding, I could do, the title is what I learned on raising money and how it can help you raise money, and the journey. And then I could start a video and I could share a story of a person that I worked with in crowdfunding and tell that journey of what we did. And as I told that journey, what I'm doing is that viewer is seeing that, and some of them will be like, that's me in the story. So I'm talking about somebody I worked with, but the viewers are like, I'm that person in the story.
Yeah.
And so that is, and what you're doing is you're really getting people to really read into that and be like, oh, I want to be that person that works with them. And so think of past case studies, past experiences, lessons learned. I mean, I'm creating videos every day where, based on where I'm at. Like yesterday, I spoke in front of, give you an example. Kevin Harrington and we own a company called Shark Tank Global. And what we did is we spoke in front of 400 real estate agents. And so we had a whole day together experience. I came back, and the video I shared was how I talked in front of 400 people. Then we went into a room and I spoke in front of 100. And every once in a while, like I messed up on 4 words. I go literally, like, the words you ever get that can't come out of your mouth. I did it like 5 words, and I basically acknowledged, like, I can't speak today, and then I kept rolling. And so that thing that happened to me that day, I created a video last night that shared tips around public speaking and how every once in a while I do that, and what I did to flow through it.
Gotcha.
And so I take my experiences throughout my life, and then I turn on the camera and shoot it, because it's current, it's happening in that moment, and it's on top of mind. So I don't need to come up with I'm going to
Yeah.
just share a story. I'm going to share what's happening in my life.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So from what I'm hearing and like from I think from what I've experienced as far as my own personal
Yeah.
growth within my business, we all want to connect on some human level, and like connection really does drive the like and no factor.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've kind of established that, it helps crystallize you in that person's mind as like almost a familiar face, soul, like someone that they can trust, even though they don't really know them. And interestingly enough, one of the contracts that I landed, that was probably one of the biggest contracts of my life, right? Like probably the one contract that still has that exponential
Yeah.
benefit. Um, I sat down and I was talking to the group of people, and I kind of in their mind wanted to draw the connection between how, if they were in the consumer's position, how they would feel, and how I'm deeply connected to making sure that the consumer solutions are being met. And
Mm-hmm.
then literally they sent no one else those contracts but us, because they knew we understood on a deep intrinsic level what the consumer was going through. But crazy enough, I just shared a situation that happened with me and my father.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even know that the story was about me and my dad.
See, I'm curious, why did you share the story, not say it was actually personally your own home base?
I don't know. I maybe maybe you can help me out with this, but I feel like sometimes as a woman, people think that when I put too much emotion in certain things, I might not. It kind of takes away from the professionalism. So I didn't want to take away from the professionalism. I just kind of wanted to draw the important piece was that I understood what the consumer needed, because I've experienced this with this consumer. And I did. It wasn't like a made up story or anything. My father was ill. He needed special care, and we couldn't find the care that he needed. But then I just kind of phrased it as in like, I understand the situation because I've lived this, like I've seen this happen. But then when you share a story that's that personal, sometimes I feel like they're like, oh, she's too deeply enmeshed in this. Like, maybe she'll be enmeshed with the consumers because there's not like a boundary between her and the consumers. Or is she going to think that this is her father? So that was my hesitation, but I could be wrong. So what would you say?
I mean, I feel as humans, we should just authentically be our truth, right?
Right.
Because we all have our own story, and don't be afraid to share it. And don't like somebody once told me, if you in your heart really believe in what you're saying, what you're doing, and who you are as a person,
right.
At the end of the day, when you share that, like if somebody's going to think differently of you, then that's their thing,
Right. Right.
So I'm a huge component of just sharing really your background. But again, there's some people who aren't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
I give you an example. My wife we created a documentary that just won some Emmys, and it's called Red Flags. And the red flags stand for the red flags in your life. When I met her, she just got out of a bad relationship. When she was 13, she got addicted to meth. For a year was addicted to one of the worst drugs there is. She somehow got out of it, and she's 13 years old. She rolled into an 8-year abusive relationship. And then one day she packed everything she could in her car and she drove away and escaped that violence. Right. And so that story was very difficult on her. And it was years before she shared it. And eventually she came to the point of she shared it through a film and with other people. And so that she wasn't quite ready at the beginning. It took like 7 years. Right. And then when she did share it, I'll tell you, it was very therapeutic, and it changed her. It actually changed our relationship. And so now she knows that story can be something that can help other people, other women that are going through that. And so what you're talking about, like, you may not all of us are ready at certain points in our life to share certain stories because maybe we're still struggling with it. Right. That it's not the right time.
Right. And see, you're good, Brandon, because here you are telling another story. Like you're really just like, this is the thing. Okay, I get it. So talk to me about the event some more. Like, let me know are you still accepting applications? Who is the event best for, and what outcomes can they expect as far as like, I mean, this podcast is about money. So as far as what their earning potential could be from attending the podcast, what does that look like for them?
Yeah, I mean, Good question. So the ticket prices, they go anywhere from 797 up to
Mhm.
$5,000.
Mhm.
And the more you spend, basically, the more you get into our inner circle
Right.
of all the people that are really they're doing business at a higher
Right.
level, but also they're really committed. And
Right.
so that's an investment standpoint. Who's it for? It's for people that want to be able to share their story. And if just like I'm doing right now, if
Mhm.
you want to understand how to share your story effectively
Right.
and specifically doing it through a video,
Right.
whether it's creating videos on your social media, then if you want to get as advanced as doing your own mini documentary, your own TV
Right.
show, but also how to utilize video
Mhm.
to make more money. And
Right.
so showing that. So what do you get? You get a ticket. You learn how to create videos. You learn how to tell your story and how to make money with that. And
Mhm.
then the biggest one is what ROI. Well, I'm bringing in the people that have made billions of dollars. They've done hundreds of millions. I mean, some take away the money. They've made huge impacts in different
Right.
ways. One of our performers, Brian Kelly. I mean, Brian Kelly, one of the guys part of Florida Georgia Line, and
Mhm.
he's won. I don't know how much. I think some of the songs or Cruise with Nelly was like
Yeah.
one of the most listened of all time.
Yeah.
But he has a story to tell, and so
Mhm.
you're learning from the best of the best, and you're in the room with the best of the best. And as you know, because
Yeah.
you're about money, your network is your net worth.
Right.
And so when you're in proximity, one conversation could lead into $1 million deal. And from what I do, I have conversations that do lead to those $1 million deals.
Right.
And so,
Are you encouraging that at the event as well? Well, I mean, I'm sorry, you kind of went out a little bit. I can't hear you very well.
which part am I encouraging?
Oh, so are you encouraging like the networking, the interaction? Have you created like an
Oh, yeah.
environment?
Oh, yeah. So we do. So we have speakers, but also it's in Nashville, Tennessee. So we rented out the whole room of the top of the floor. We have
Mhm.
musicians coming in, cocktail hour. We're
Okay.
doing there's like 5 different networking opportunities throughout the city.
Okay.
Then we also have speakers. So it's like a mastermind speaker, entertainment, fun
Okay.
atmosphere, which I found to be where the best opportunities happen when you're just having a conversation and having fun with somebody.
Okay, awesome. Is it possible that after the event we can come back and just kind of like do a debrief of how everything
I,
went?
I would love to do that. I'd love to do even more. I'd love for you to come get a ticket, experience it, and know so you can actually you can share with the
Okay.
audience and this is what it was because we had this show and here's you before you're asking, but now after you saying this is what it is, and I will ask you questions. We'll do back and forth because I would love to hear. I mean, the time we're talking here, I love just kind of your vibe, your energy. I know you have a story to share.
Right.
You come back, you come to the event. Who knows? Maybe in 2 years, you're the next speaker. I don't know.
No, well, you can make that happen, right? We can work. You know what? Anybody listen, I'm holding him to this. That's all. That's all that is. We're gonna bully into letting me speak. But anyway, I'm just kidding. So Brandon, if we wanted to get in touch with you, if we wanted to get insight into the actual event where we can get tickets, how would we go about doing that?
Yes. So go to riseandrecord.com. You can get tickets there. Our event will sell out. And if you're coming, you got to be serious about your success and serious about connecting and being around good people. For me, social media, if you want to connect with me personally, I'm at Brandon T. Adams everywhere. Send me a DM, connect with me. It's pretty easy to find me because, as I said before, I share my life on social media.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the Mental Money Podcast. Please go ahead and remember to subscribe, but don't hoard all of this good information for yourself. Share this information with someone that you know could use it, especially if they need a shift in their mindset or someone who would love to have more money. So until we meet again, remember, like Uncle Snoop said, keep your mind on your money and your money on your mind.